Okay, here we
Yes.
are. We're
Yes.
live. It worked again.
Excellent.
Well, welcome
Thank
to
you. Thank you.
yes, Katalyst Mastermind Live, where we bring folks from the Katalyst Consulting Mastermind community. We're pulling the veil behind, pulling the curtain back so you can meet some of the wonderful women that I have the opportunity to get to know and work with and support as part of this community. So this is our third live session, and we are here. It's my incredible honor and pleasure to welcome our third just spirit and soul here to the live. Rose Arthur. Rose is an OG from day one. I don't know how you found out about us, but I'm just so happy and grateful that you did. Just the energy that you bring to the community is so welcoming and beautiful. You're like our number one cheerleader. So I just kind of want to start out with a thank you. So let's
Of
let's just do
course.
that. I just appreciate you joining the community and kind of rocking with us since January last year. And I hope, you've gotten what you need out of it and continue to get what you need out of it. And I just thank you for being just such a welcoming support to other members in the community. So welcome, Rose.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a
And
pleasure.
let's start with just why don't you just introduce yourself? So you're based in Massachusetts.
I am.
You came as we were all sort of transitioning in 2020 from our full-time roles in nonprofits. You worked in the education space. There are a few educators and those who come from that field in our group. So I think you've connected with just about everybody, whether or not they're old or new.
So
Um,
true.
why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Tell us who you are, what your background is, kind
Sure.
of what your career, your nonprofit 9 to 5 career was before you made the decision to switch to consulting.
Yes, so definitely. I'm in Massachusetts. I have been in the nonprofit space for over 20 years. I started in corporate and quickly moved to the nonprofit space because it really aligned with who I was and what I was looking for in community. So I've worked in higher ed, I've worked in a bunch of nonprofits throughout Massachusetts. And in the last 15 years, I have been managing a federally funded grant um, that abruptly ended at the end of 2021. And then I kind of said, what next? I just took a breath. I had never taken a break or a breath. I loved what I was doing, working with students and parents and public school systems throughout Massachusetts. I loved creating programming. I want to see impact for students. I want to see impact in my community. I want folks to be educated. I want folks to live a good life. Um, and so I was enjoying all of that and loving that. And after that came to an end, my colleagues started reaching out and saying, can I pick your brain? You've been doing this grant thing for a while.
Hmm.
Um, and can I pick your brain? And that's when my possi- consultant business started to slowly form, and it's been going ever since. I'm just trying to figure out how I can be of service and and help folks to really secure the funding that they need to build out impactful programming, but also to do it with a lens of creating impact in the communities that they serve.
There's so much there I want to dig into. So the first thing I think that stood out to me was the abruptness, with which your position ended, or the role that you were working in ended, and what that does to somebody, right? And I think the options people have in those moments, because that's something that I think a lot of people have experienced, and frankly are experiencing still with layoffs, and and sort of what happens in that moment, like what goes through your head, the option that you have of like, do I sit with this and sort of let it derail me, or is there potentially an opportunity buried in here? And it sounds like I mean, that sounds like that was your catalyst moment
It
of,
was. Oh, yeah.
see what I did there, of, trying to figure out what's next for Rose. And I think,
Yes.
I'm just put out there, like, I think it's particularly challenging for, kind of women. I think, women who are kind of farther along in their careers, who are kind of used to
Yes.
stability and having that foundation to have that kind of rip from under you, and having
Mm-hmm.
to figure out what you then do next. So talk a little bit about, that pivot for you. You took a pause, it sounds like, to just kind of maybe reflect a little bit. But then
Yeah.
you saw the opportunity, right? And folks who were reaching out to you saying that you have some expertise that I think could be valuable to me. So can I learn a little bit from you? So tell me
Correct.
about, like, that seems like that was the transition period for you, right?
It definitely
Yeah,
was.
talk about
Yeah, it
that.
definitely was. I hadn't considered entrepreneurship. I hadn't considered starting a consultant business, but it just kind of fell into place. Um, and I was still looking for work, but I wasn't finding anything that really resonated with me. And I wasn't finding anything that would use all of the skills and experiences and the Rolodex that I had developed over 20 years of working in the nonprofit field, and the last 15 years of managing a federal grant. I also have experience managing state contracts, and I've also worked in the private fundraising arena as well. So I wasn't really finding anything that resonated with me. And this really resonated with me. The stories of people coming and saying, I have this grant. I'm really struggling with this part of it or that part of it. Can you help me monitor? Can you help me evaluate? Can you help me assess? Can you help me build a strategy for success? And all grants have a reporting mechanism where there are either interim reports that need to be submitted or annual reports that need to be submitted. So collecting data and making sure that all of that is ready for submission is how you hold on to your money. And there've been a lot of people laid off, as we know, people leaving jobs. And so when that happens, there's usually a break in communication. There are new people who have to be brought on, who have to be trained, who have to be onboarded, and all of that takes time. And with grants that are funded, they have to keep rolling. You still have to show that you are meeting your goals and objectives, and using funds with efficacy, um, and also, showing impact in what you're doing and not just willy nilly, going about the work. So
Mm-hmm.
the pivot was definitely an interesting place for me. I felt like I was a little burned out after
Hmm.
COVID. So taking that pause really helped to center me a little bit, and deciding to do this at this stage of my career is something I hadn't thought I would do, but I'm enjoying the ride. I'm enjoying getting to meet people and hearing what their challenges are and coming up with solutions to help to support them.
That's awesome. And I think, we were talking about this before we went live, how all of us started this during COVID.
Yes.
Excuse me. So we were kind of stuck behind our computers trying to figure it out. A lot of us sort of plopped into the space that we never really either thought we'd be in, or, took the leap in search of something else, like something different for our lives.
Yes.
And I know you and I, we've known each other now for a year and a half plus.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
we met up at the beach in Florida,
It was.
so I know a lot about your story and a lot about your journey, and sort of what has brought you here. And I think what's been really interesting to see kind of at this point in time is, like, you're really putting yourself out there in person, right? Like, that's something that I've really admired. I think since we've come out of COVID, the at least the pandemic lockdown part of COVID, and like, you're posting on LinkedIn about different conferences that you're hosting, panels that you're serving on, and I think that's a really valuable, for folks who are still like transitioning out of that behind the computer lifestyle to being a consultant now more visibly, publicly, locally. So talk a little about, I know you're doing some things in Massachusetts now. You have some events coming up. So you want to share a little bit about those?
Yes, I'm working with an educational association, Massachusetts Educational Opportunity Association. They're hosting a conference in early October on Cape Cod. So I'm volunteering on their planning committee, and I'm responsible for helping them to um, find proposals, workshops, panelists to present. I have a small, myself and a few other volunteers are looking for people to present. We are halfway to our goal of finding people to do that. And I just said yes to being a panelist on another conference at the end of October here in Massachusetts. Is the South Shore Women's Conference. So I'm going to be a panelist with a few other people. There are a bunch of panels, and this is a first for me, but I am excited to share my journey and what I do in my consulting business. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to other opportunities like that.
It should be good. You are definitely
Yes,
putting yourself out there, which is really just inspiring to see. I think something that's very interesting about your story is you say you never planned to be an entrepreneur, but you have a whole other side of you that, in addition to consulting and kind of the skills and background and experiences that you bring from that kind of aspect of your life, you have a whole product line. Like
I do.
you supported our Fill Your Cup retreat last year with some of your amazing goodies. You've been very generous with me over the past year, sort of sending me some of just your amazing, amazing is not even the right word, but like the products that you have developed. And I think that's a really interesting thing about like the space that we're in, right? Like, everyone wants to be in a box or feels like they need to niche down, which I think there's some benefit in some way to that. But I
Of
think
course.
in this spirit that we are in right now of being able to explore our full humanity and our full selves, you've really managed to do that. Like you are exploring so many different areas of who you are as Rose Arthur.
I
Um,
am.
and it's just so cool to see. So share about your products because
Right. So,
I would
so
just buy
yeah,
from you like all day long if I could.
it's crazy. When people were learning how to make bread and gardening, I was doing all of these workshops and courses online, all about herbs and how to be a herbalist. And I just love that whole process of, creating oils, growing herbs, creating oils, and creating organic products. Um, and it so happened that my mom has really bad arthritis, and I had been purchasing on products online for her to help to alleviate some of her pain and her, you know, she's an older woman and she needs a little bit of salve and Bengay and all of that wonderful stuff. I didn't really like all the stuff that I was reading that were in the ingredients, so I started tinkering myself in my own lab and came up with some salve for her. It's infused with hemp derived CBD, and my mom loves it. Matter of fact, she called me the other day to say, "Can you make sure the next set of stuff you make for me has lemongrass in it?" I hear lemongrass has some healing properties that I might want to take advantage of. So
But you have
I
a
did.
lemongrass one. I feel like I've tried one of
Do
your
you?
lemongrass.
Okay.
don't you,
Yes,
don't you have a lemongrass one?
I do.
Yeah,
I do
yeah,
have
yeah.
a lemongrass one. So I'm making a lemongrass in thyme for her. I just started a lavender garden, so can't wait to try some of that and have organic product to infuse in my butters, in my salves, body scrubs. I have a whole line of items that were basically requested by clients. So I started out with the little salve, and then folks started saying, "Well, I have this issue. Have you thought of making something for me for this?" Or I go to a natural hairstylist, and she's like, my clients would really like a nice natural oil. Can you create some oils for me?" So I've been doing that. Men come up to me at various events if I vend at events, and they're like, there's nothing here for me. Have you thought of anything for my beard? So I created a beard balm.
Oh, go ahead,
A
Rose.
friend of mine was like, "Oh, I need something for my feet. I stand on my feet all day at my juice bar. Can you create something for my feet?" So I just create based on requests from clients and see what they say. Send it out to my friends and say, "Hey, try this out. Let me know what you think."
I mean,
And
honestly, like the point here is like multi. First, there's a couple points: multidimensionality and being and having the freedom to explore those things, right? And I
right,
think it's just such a beautiful space that we're in when you decide to kind of take the leap on your own. You do consulting, you support organizations, you support communities and teams and people. You believe in the work, you believe in the mission, and there's something I feel like that unlocks within you, within those who are in the space of really exploration. And I mean, you've nailed it, and it's a beautiful thing to see. I did not realize that you started this also. This was also during COVID because you said when you
this
started
was during
gardening.
COVID when people were making bread. I was in my lab making salves and body butters and
Isn't that amazing? Isn't
yes,
that amazing what
yes.
COVID unlocked in a lot of different.
I never saw that coming, but it just took off and now it's like, "Oh, can you appear here? Can you appear there?" And I'm
Mhm,
like, "Do I have that Saturday open? Maybe I can." So,
mhm.
yeah.
You leaned into
It's
it. It felt
fulfilling.
it's great. You felt good, right? And you leaned
Yes.
into it. So
Yes.
so that's amazing. Is there a place people can go if they want to purchase or
Yes, I have a website. It's Bayesian Handcrafted Organics dot VIP. I'll definitely share a link with you so we can, add it if folks want to check out the website and purchase anything. I would be very pleased. Um, and yeah, I enjoy it. And I also feel that it is my therapy.
hmm
When I say I'm going into my lab, there's something very meditative about standing there stirring and mixing and creating something that could be healing or um, of some benefit to other people. So I
hmm
love that.
I love it. I love it, Rose. So let's talk a little bit more. Let's switch gears back to the consulting. And I try to keep these conversations to 30 minutes. So we'll chat a little bit more. I like, people, I like them to be easily digestible for folks and just
Sure.
get a glimpse of who you are, to figure out how they can work with you, be inspired by your story. So if you were to kind of handpick your dream consulting clients or dream consulting project, let's say the project, for you at this stage, what would that look like for you? There's a lot of stuff that you're really good at, really smart at, and a lot of experience that you have. So, kind of moving forward and looking at this next kind of 4 months, 3 months. What's the ideal opportunity for you?
I guess the ideal opportunity would be an organization that is focused on impact, um, focused on measurable outcomes for the clients that they serve, and very much values aligned. My values are authenticity, integrity, legacy, and impact. And so I like to work with organizations that don't just talk about doing stuff, but actually deliver on those promises. And it's not just they're saying that they're doing wonderful work, but the folks who they're serving, by the feedback they're given, are also saying, "You helped me. This is work that's impactful, that has changed my life, or that has moved me to whatever the next stage of life is." And that's basically it. I want to do good work. I want to leave a legacy of having done my best.
Mm,
And I also enjoy mentoring, advising, sharing what I've learned along the way. As a first in almost everything, I'm also an immigrant. I was the first to graduate from college. I was the first to get a professional job in corporate. So I like to share with young people how that's possible and how to set themselves up for success. And I love when someone reaches out to me, a former student or a former colleague or intern reaches out and says, "Hey, Miss, do you remember me?" And they're now on LinkedIn and they're my colleague and they want to meet up for coffee or they want to chat with me about a possible job situation. I love that. I'll jump on the phone. You know me. I'll jump on the phone in a
You
minute
sure will.
and
You
have
sure
a
will.
conversation.
So generous with your time and your knowledge. So what I hear there is that you're open to speaking opportunities.
A little bit.
A little bit, or
I am.
mentoring opportunities.
Yes.
School systems that want to bring in people or focusing on career
Nonprofit.
days to hire
Yes.
you. Folks that work with young people directly, who need sort of inspiring stories. I think I didn't. I think I did know you were. I did know you were an immigrant, but I didn't know all the firsts. So
Yes. All
I
the
think it's
first.
I mean, as they say, representation matters, and I think it's really important that that folks are able to see themselves in the people that are in front of them. So
Exactly.
that's amazing, Rose.
And my in one of our circles yesterday, I talked about at some point I would like to be on a paid board. I feel as though I have so much experience and knowledge um, in client facing roles that folks don't get the opportunity to understand what's really happening in their communities if they're leaders. So that's one of my big um, things for goals for 2024.
I'm so happy you put that out there. Thanks for remembering to do that. So what corporate role did you start out in? I don't think I know that.
I actually started out of high school. I worked for John Hancock. I was recruited out of high school, went to work at John Hancock, didn't even know what John Hancock was. And I turned up at the building. I was like, whoa, this building. It was like 30 something stories, all glass. And I was one of the few people of color on my floor on the 32nd floor. And I worked there for 5 years, learned a lot about insurance and paying claims. I was like, okay, this is enough for me. And quickly found a position at in higher ed, and I've been in nonprofits ever since.
Wow. That's amazing, Rose. I think we can end it here. I think, the
Thank you for
goal
having
again,
me.
of the goal of these conversations again is to help people be inspired, to see themselves in your stories, to understand if the consulting life is something that they want to try out as a side hustle. Like I never say people have to just sort of rip the band-aid off and just go full time into this, because
Sure.
it's not an easy thing, right? There's a
No,
lot that you need to kind of have within you to be able to make that leap and sustain that leap. But
for
if it's
sure.
something that you're interested in exploring, these are the people who are doing it, who have done it, people who are like you, really interesting, fascinating backgrounds and stories, and they're still taking a bet on themselves at different points in life. Like our group, like I would say our group is probably like 30s to 60. And it's really fascinating to see just all the stories of people, what brought them here to this place in time. A lot of it is kind of toxic and quite frankly racist work environments, and people just saying I've had enough and I want to bet on myself for a little bit. Who knows if it'll be
Yes.
forever, but I at least want to say in my lifetime I gave it a shot. So I'm so happy that you're part of this community. You've been just a gift to get to know over the last year and almost 2 years, I guess at this point, year and a half. And I just wish you all the success. So
Thank you.
where's the best way for people to find you if they want to work with you, learn from you, pay you to pick your brain, have you serve on their corporate board? What's the best way?
Definitely on LinkedIn. Connect with me there. And my website is McCaskey Associates.com. I'll definitely share that information with you, and you can add it when this segment airs. But those are the two places on LinkedIn as well as my website.
Love it. Okay, we're
Thank
gonna add
you.
all that stuff, and take care, Rose. I'll see you at
Thank you.
our next meetup. Thank you for those who are on the call from our community. We'll post this to LinkedIn and around on our YouTube channel and stuff a little bit later. But this was a pleasure. Thanks for saying yes to the live. I know this isn't
Yes.
a comfortable space for everybody. I think we're all figuring it out. It's not my most comfortable space either, but we are putting ourselves out there, and
That's
hopefully
true.
in our
Thank
stories.
you,
Yes,
Camilla,
absolutely, Rose.
for creating this opportunity and for creating this community. It's been a
Oh,
gift.
thank you. It's been my absolute pleasure and sort of life's work at this stage of my life. So thank you for saying yes. All right. See you in the community.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.